everyone. Our first Vice President, Kathleen O'Connell, will introduce our guest speaker. Thank you. Don't take that white flag out.
Thank you, Madam President. It is indeed a pleasure tonight to introduce our guest speaker, Ruby Thomas. As a part of her contribution to society, Ruby has developed a presentation titled Black Women from Maryland, the Famous and the Forgotten, which gives a brief glance at the life of 7 black women from Maryland. She has given her presentation to several schools, community groups, and organizations. She has been featured in the Andrews Air Force newspaper, Flightline, and the Prince George's Journal, and other periodicals. Currently, Ruby has over 22 years with the federal government, and over 10 years of that time has been in the field of equal opportunity and civil rights. I'm sure that you'll find her presentation entertaining and very informative. Please join me in welcoming Ruby Thomas.
For that warm introduction. I begin every presentation by saying good afternoon. Good afternoon. And I don't have to say it a second time. I'm honored that you, the Business and Professional Women's Club of Southern Prince George's County, and asked me to be your guest speaker today in celebration of your African American History Month celebration that you have me here today. Afro-American History Month provides a welcome opportunity for each of us to increase our awareness of the contributions of Black Americans. Understanding our past is important, so I commend you ladies today, for making me a part of your program. I will begin my presentation. Today we're going to take a journey. We're going to take a journey back in time. The journey will start in the year 1619. This was the year when 20 captured men and women began to sail across the ocean shores. In chains, crowded in dark holes, they sung their mournful songs. Sometimes whole groups of Africans were taken on dock for fresh air and would leap into the ocean, committing mass suicide rather than going into slavery. As soon as they would land, the Africans were sold. To escape slavery, some would run away into the forest and join the Indians. No man, woman, or child wanted to be a slave. During the 1700s, thousands of Africans were brought by force to America to plant the cotton, the corn, the wheat, to build the roads, and to clear the forests, to do all the hard work that went into building early America. In 1783, America became a free nation, the United States of America. All were free except the Negro, still a slave. Our journey now takes us to the 1800s. During this time, almost 100,000 Negro slaves had ran away. Slaves were being hung, tortured, beaten, just because they were black. This is a time when 7 women were born. 7 Negro women who all shared common qualities. Imagine now that most Negroes were still slaves. Just a handful had been given their freedom before the Civil War. Only a few could read or write, and most only dreamed of being free. These 7 women were all born in the state of Maryland. They were all born during the 1800s. Maryland, for the most part, was a southern state that supported slavery. Most of these women were born as slaves, but some had a means of an income. Some were very, very poor. But they all had courageous acts that they performed. They showed that they were fearless, courageous, and had strong religious convictions. Some are famous, yet some are barely known. But they all are famous in their own right. They all had strong beliefs in equality as well. They had the strength to overcome obstacles like slavery, bigotry, as well as racism. They all were pioneers. Our First Lady. I was born in 1859. I was educated in Montreal. I began writing poetry at an early age. I published my first works when I was only 18 years old. Can you imagine me publishing poetry in the year 1877? I published Joy, an 8-page monthly that consisted of my original poems and stories. I was considered by the white race as having a cultivated brain. Why? Because the Negro at that time was considered as having a small brain and incapable of learning. I had great powers of imagination. I could transpose my thoughts into painted pictures for my readers. I am one of the first Negro women to become a writer and a publisher. Who am I? I am A.E. Johnson, our second lady. I was born in 1825 and I died in 1911. I was born free. My parents both died when I was very, very young. I was left as an orphan. I was raised by my uncle until I was 13. He was free and he lived in Baltimore. He taught me how to read and write because he was a teacher himself. At 13, I went to work for a French family. And after I finished my chores, they would allow me to read, and they also taught me how to read. Between the age of 13 and 20, I wrote a lot of poems and stories. At the age of 20, I published also my first collection of poems. I fell in love and I got married in 1860 to Fenton. I had one child and that child died at an early age. After my husband died, 4 years after my child died, I decided that I had to do something about racism. So I took up an anti-slavery campaign. I was advocating the need for a higher education or education as in any form and a higher standard for living for the Negro. Did you know that I was the only Negro woman at the American Suffrage Association to speak in 1875? And I was so fantastic, they asked me to come back in 1877. I traveled throughout the Reconstruction South, speaking on the value of education and the participation of the Negro in the political process. I devoted my life to equality and the need to recognize the bigotry against Negroes. I am a lecturer, an author, a teacher, a reformer, a poet, and a novelist. Did you know that I was the founder and vice president of the National Association of Colored Women? Because my literary works were printed in inexpensive paperback books, very few have survived. But maybe you have read some of them. Maybe you read my first publication, which is Forest Leaves. If you haven't read that, maybe you've read Moses of the Nile, The Underground Railroad, or maybe you've read Sketches of Southern Life. But as most poets, I have my favorite. and it's titled Bury Me in a Free Land. And it goes like this. Make me a grave wherever you will, on a lonely plain or a lofty hill. Make it among the earth's finest graves, but not in a land where men are still slaves. Who am I? Anybody know? Frances Ellen Watkins Harper. I was born in Baltimore, and my father was a very distinguished musician. I guess that's where I acquired my natural taste for music. My father died right after I was born, but I was very fortunate. My mother remarried, and she married a wealthy man. So I attended the finest of schools, and I made rapid progress in my studies. My teachers wanted me to study elocution. I passed the necessary exams at the age of 15 to become a school teacher in the state of Maryland. In 1878, I became one of the first Negro women to work for the federal government as a copyist. But I had a natural love for music and drama and the arts. So I followed my love, and I began to study under the best masters in classic and drama. I made my debut April the 25th, 1883 in Washington, D.C. on stage, and I was introduced by the Honorable Frederick Douglass. And my success was instantaneously, and I began to travel to principal cities. Did you know that I was a pioneer for my race in the dramatic field? Did you know that I was the first of my race to read Shakespearean on stage in 1881? Who do you think I am? I'm Henrietta Vinton Davis. If you know, ladies, speak up. All born in Maryland now. I was born in 1837, and I died in 1915. I was born on a farm about 20 miles south of Baltimore. My parents could both read and write. My father taught me how to read. With my little schooling and my great ability to memorize, I began to preach. And I would preach to my friends and my relatives and anybody who wanted to listen to me. I was endowed with a compelling voice, and I started preaching at AME churches, holy groups along the East Coast. The word had gotten out about me, and soon I was known as Sister Smith, the evangelist. Did you know that I was often asked to speak in front of holiness groups, which were white, which was unheard of in the 1870s, and it was not commonplace for a Negro woman to travel to exotic lands in the year 1870, but I did. I traveled to Europe, India, Africa, and I preached. I spreaded the word. I published my own biography in 1893, and I established an orphanage for girls 2 years before I died. I set the stage for other women who wanted to become preachers. Who am I? I am Amanda Berry Smith. My fifth lady. I'm not in a history book, and I don't know when I was born. I was born in Charles County. I was born in the late 1850s. There is no record of my birth. My birth was recorded in a Bible, and that Bible was destroyed by fire. But I do remember the Civil War soldiers marching in my backyard. I think I was about 5, 6, or 7 years old at the time. I lived a quiet life in Charles County, and when I grew up, I married. And I married an older man, and he had fought in the Civil War for the U.S. colored troops. We had 3 children. One of my children died at an early age. My husband was mustered into the Civil War in 1863 and mustered out in 1865. He fought in many battles, and he was wounded and was never treated for his injuries. In 1895, he died. My story is about a widower fighting the government for a pension, a widow's pension. My story is a simple one, but a courageous one. A pension that I thought was rightfully mine. My struggle began by proving that the soldier that I married fought in the Civil War. I had no idea what to do. So I obtained an attorney in Washington, D.C. for a big fee of $10. I could not read or write, and I could only make an X for my signature. But I got the records to prove my husband's enlistment from the Department of Army itself. I had to prove that the children were his. I had to go to midwives that delivered my children to get statements. I had to go to the minister that married us to get a copy of my marriage certificate. I had to go to neighbors, relatives, and friends to get statements that we were living together as husband and wife. You know, during that time, there weren't much that black women could do. And I'm talking about the years between 1895 and 1896. So basically, I did what most black women do. I worked the farm, and I was a midwife. And I delivered a mini child in Charles County. But after 1 year, I won. I got the grand total of $4 a month for myself and $2 for each one of my children. And I was rich. But you gotta realize that that amount of money was only half the amount that was given to white soldiers, widowers. I was determined that I was going to get my pension, so I fought a struggle, and I also told other widowers in my town how to go about getting their pensions as well. I am Landonia Moore Brown, and we don't have a picture of her. My 6th lady. I was born free, and I was born in Denton. I stayed home and did chores around the house, but at 17, I became a housemaid. And I used to attend the Southern Baltimore Mental Improvement Society, where a lot of blacks in the Baltimore area would gather as a social gathering. In 1838, I was engaged and married. I was dark, quiet, hardworking. I had none of my husband's intellectual ambitions. But I gave him his soaring imagination and a solid base. I was the practical one of the pair. I was that good woman behind that great man. I was a few years older than my husband, so I sold my belongings to help my husband escape from Baltimore to freedom in New York City. We were married for 44 long years, and I died in 1883. Who am I? Who? Nope. Try again. I am Amanda Berry Douglas, the wife of Frederick Douglass. And our final lady. Truth to me, truth to me is freedom, not just for me, but for all. What it means to me in the dark, in the deep woods, singing, steal away, steal away, steal away to Jesus, steal away home. I ain't got long to stay here. But that steal away did not mean as what the slave masters thought. still on the way to Jesus. I use that as a great secret call to steal away to freedom and to follow the North Star. After I made my own escape alone from a Maryland plantation, I went back into slavery territory many times to rescue my friends and family, to guide them to the North. My Lord, I hear He calls me. He calls me by the thunder. The trumpet sounds within my soul. I ain't got long to stay here. Steal away, steal away, steal away to Jesus. Home. Home is where freedom is. Home ain't nowhere but where freedom is. A house could ever be so nice, with a soft bed, fine food, fire in the fireplace, but it ain't home if it's not where freedom is. Houseboy, I hear you crying in the big house as you eat the Mrs. Cake. Freedom ain't there. Coachman, I hear you crying as you in the carriage seat as you drive those fine babes. Freedom isn't there. Rosie, I hear you crying as the master slips you a coin in your hand when the missus isn't looking. Money isn't freedom. I live where the fire is out, where the bed is hard, where the food is scarce, and maybe you work, and maybe you eat, and maybe you don't. But freedom is there. Come go with me. I know you want to, because freedom is where I'm going. Come with me through swamp, through marsh, past pally rollers with their dogs, past danger, past even death. Freedom is there. Come go with me. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. I looked over Jordan, and what did I see? Coming for to carry me home. A band of angels coming after me, coming for to carry me home. Do you think I'm singing about the chariot of death? Oh no, not me. I was called at one time the most dangerous woman in America. A price tag of $40,000 on my head, which was put up by the slave masters for my capture. I went back and forth into slavery territory to rescue friends and relatives. I was a great conductor of the Underground Railroad, a nurse for the Union soldiers in the Civil War, and a spy for the Union armies. Children, I was not singing about the chariot of death, but I was singing about the chariot of freedom. Who am I? Our great lady, Harriet Tubman. This concludes my presentation. You've been a wonderful audience, and I appreciate you again for asking me to speak at your program today. This concludes my presentation. Thank you.